Hi all, start of September and the sun is shining. I mean, that is such a classic prediction. The kids go back to school, sun comes out, boom. Which is absolutely zero issue for me because luckily enough I can work from home. I thought I would do one final update on the pond border. So I've kind of been just sort of doing updates on this border throughout the year, and I'll tag the previous videos below if you want to backtrack and see the earlier videos. So I had started documenting this kind of space around about March, April time, and then I think I'd done another touch point kind of June, July, and now we are in sort of the September, October phase of the planting. So this border primarily gets a lot of attention. It will feature a lot on my socials. I take a lot of photographs of it. I generally tend to be quite proud of this space, although sometimes it doesn't always play ball with me. Obviously, June was very hot, and then we had a really sort of dull, very wet July, very wet August, and now we're in September, and thankfully we do have the sunshine. So kind of a lot of the plants have went over, and I would say that this is kind of going into its autumnal phase. So things like the Salvia caradonas, they are now over for the season, but I kind of just leave the seed heads on because I kind of like how they look still. There's things that then coming into flower, for example the sedum autumn joy there, although they're no longer called sedums, but I still refer to them as sedums. They're coming into flower. That's kind of going to be more into the October flush. The Japanese anemones are out in full flower, and they will go again right through September into early October. And then there's things like the lichness, which had been out in flower for the end of June, early July. That was that vivid, intense hot pink. It's now starting to die off. It's starting to go to seed, so that will need a tidy up. But then there's things that are looking really good that are starting to flower. For example, this agastache. A lot of people are familiar with agastache in sort of shades of blues and purples, but this variety is called apricot sprite. It's a lovely orange. It has fragrant foliage. It does really well for drought conditions. I have 4 clumps of this agastache within this border. I grew them all from seed. I'm really happy with that. And then I have the agastache paired then with the velvet curtains there behind it, which is just an annual then that I have in the bed. And that same colour then is also picked up again in the riciness, which are these kind of large hexagonal leaves. It's just another annual that I like to grow year on year, stick it into this border. I say they don't survive the winter, but they are just kind of nice gap fillers, and they're really nice kind of rich colours. That is the whole idea of this border, is that it's really rich, intense colours. Now, I did have a mistake this year because I mislabelled my cosmos, and I do have random clumps of white cosmos within this space, and white was a colour I was trying to avoid in this area. I also have white Japanese anemones, but you know what? After much thought and deliberation, I kind of like it, especially now that we are in September and the light levels are starting to get less and less now in the evening time. I do actually just like those bright pops of white because these cosmos are really vivid, intense white, so they really bounce in low light levels. So actually, because they're only an annual anyway, they'll die off. It hasn't really bothered me too much, so it's not the end of the world. And then other things that are looking good, I suppose, are the grasses at this time of year. So again, we are coming into that autumnal phase. The grasses are kind of going to be the next standout plants. It's their time to shine at the minute. There is some Nepeta Six Hills Giants that was kind of chopped in the middle of June, and it's going into its second flush actually, and it looks really well with the Stipa chimissima. It's now called Nasala, but I still call it Stipa. And yeah, I suppose the Hydrangea paniculata limelights, they haven't been doing so great in this border, and I think it's because I have it jam-packed with too many different things and there's too much competition for them. And also this border doesn't retain a lot of moisture, which I've talked about in my previous videos, and that solely comes down to a lot because of the beech hedge there behind, which takes a lot of moisture out of this border, and also it's south facing. As always, I've pointed this out before, this border is just sort of stacked up with rocks at the front. There's no weed membrane in here. People always say to me, how do I deal with weeds? To be honest, there's not many weeds in this space, and that's down to me packing everything so tightly together. Some people find my planting style a bit messy, but on the other hand, because I've no weed membrane, I just mulch this border when I can or when funds allow it. Otherwise, I am just, I say, cramming the plants together, and that is what reduces the weed growth. That's what reduces the maintenance in this bed. So that's generally how it's done. I don't know if there'll be another follow-up video at any point of this of this border. I don't know if I'll touch on it again for winter, so this might be the last video of the season for it. But like I said, I'll tag the previous 2 videos in that I've done previously on this border. I think the one thing I was concerned about at the start of the year was my Synecio angel wings. I thought it had got blitzed in winter 2022 because there had been temperatures of -14 here one night for like 3 nights in a row. And I actually happened to be, it was my birthday weekend, so I wasn't here at the time to cover things with fleece protection. So I was really gutted, but thankfully all of my Synecio angel wings has actually pulled through. Not as strong as they were last year, but look, I'm not going to complain. I'm just going to be more cautious this winter. If there's a cold snap due, I will get them covered with fleece protection. But otherwise, if you have any questions about any of the plants in this border, drop me a message or a comment, and yeah, I'll be glad to answer as best I can. And as always, thank you for supporting my channel, and thank you for watching. Bye.